Welcome back to Let's Not Sugarcoat It. Season 3 is here and we're excited to dive into the core of communication, relationships, and leadership.
We're your hosts, Bella and Lee, a husband and wife duo with a successful business helping couples and organizations get it together to play a bigger game and elevate their relationships and performance.
We believe in keeping it real, so each week we'll bring you incredible guests, entrepreneurs sharing their authentic experiences, along with episodes featuring just the two of us tackling the tough topics.
So, if you're ready to enhance your connections and sharpen your leadership skills, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Okay, well, welcome back to another episode of Let's Not Sugarcoat It. Today we have Pam Rader in the house. She's our return guest. Whoop, whoop. She is a no BS transformational coach, best-selling author, and a founder of Shift Labs, Inc. She's helped thousands break free from what's holding them back to create powerful, purpose-driven lives. From surviving deep personal trauma to building thriving communities and businesses, Pam doesn't just talk transformation, she lives it. She's been featured in top magazines, documentaries, and now she's here to share the real, raw truth about what it really takes to heal, lead, and live life fully. So welcome back.
Yeah, Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. And I'm in the midst of transformation once again, so it feels like perfect timing.
Lots has changed since we first had you on the show. You know, you have a personal development coaching business. Let's dive into that a little bit. How has going through some of these traumatic experiences shifted the way you coach and you lead?
Well, it's actually the reason I coach and lead is I have realized that since I was a child, I have had this, and maybe some would call it a gift, or just a point of view, a way of seeing the world, that I could always take life's grit and turn it into grace. I could alchemize it and say, who am I going to become because of this thing? And then I felt this innate responsibility to share that, like, oh, I transformed something. I wanted to, I came out the other side. I'm an expanded version of myself in some way. Well, I should share that with other people. And so that's just always kind of been in the background. I don't know that I could have articulated that until maybe recent years, but what it has done for, or how it's affected my coaching, is that I am unafraid to share unabashedly the embarrassing things in my life, the cringy moments, the grime that I've been through. And what I have discovered is that when people can see that you can come out the other side expanded, and that someone else has been where they are, they can drop shame, they can find acceptance. And we can't shame ourselves into transformation. We can't bully ourselves into transformation. And that's something that, there's a lot of transformational stuff. You just got to do this. And it's like, you know what, that works to a point, but then it's got to be, of course, and no wonder. And let's find compassion for that. You're just human.
Yeah.
And then with that compassion, what are we going to make it mean? And how do we move forward? And I've done it over and over again in my own life. I continue to do it in my own life. And so I think there's an element of authenticity that people resonate with.
Yeah, like earlier we're talking about how we were sharing, our transformational journey and how we're in this space of, coaching and leading and working together as a couple, and how that has shifted, and, discovering like myself and how I wasn't showing up for myself and how I was conditioned. And you were on the other end saying, I'm done showing up, not, in that aspect where I have nothing else to prove. I am here. This is who I am. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I was in a marriage for 17 years with my ex-husband for 19 years. And just this past winter, he very suddenly, shockingly, just ended the marriage. So there was no argument, there was no fighting, there was nothing leading up to it that seemed like it was a big thing. And then I found out shortly after that he'd been unfaithful for much of those 19 years. And I was quite, shocked. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that I was somewhat devastated, more so because of the surprise of it. But it caused me to have to examine what was my role, my way of being, because nothing happens in a vacuum. It's easy to point the finger, but I was like, how did it get here?
Yeah.
And I realized I saw a pattern in myself of when I felt uncertain about things, then I would start to dominate and I would go into control and I would seek success and validation in other places. So what had happened was early on in our marriage, there was an infidelity. And I thought we had worked through that, but there was something in me that never quite trusted. And turns out rightfully so in that instance. It's not always the case, of course. But, and so I was overriding my intuition a lot. And he was particularly good at love bombing. And always, baby girl, what can I do for you? I love you. And here you go. And you're amazing. And look what you're doing. And so it caused me not to look too closely at what he was doing, but I always had a sense that there was something not quite right. So I sought solid ground in my businesses, and I sought achievement-based esteem and other-based esteem, having other people tell me that I was good. Attribute-based esteem, where, look at what I've done and I'm a good person, so I must be worthy. But really underneath there was still some kind of deep-seated unworthiness because I felt this disconnection in my marriage. So when it all came apart, what it offered me the opportunity to do was to really look at that and all the places that I had blinders on, and then the places that I sought certainty and built things out of a place of unworthiness instead of out of a place of just like actual desire and service. That was revelatory to me because I would have told you that wasn't the case. And it would have been true at the time as far as I knew. But I just sort of deconstructed myself. I was like, well, my kids are grown up now. They're out of the house. I don't owe anybody anything. I'm like, I just turned 54 this year. I'm like, I'm 54. I'll do whatever I want. And I'm like, so I'm breaking a lot of rules. I'm softening a lot, and I'm looking at what brings me joy. What's enough? Like, I don't need to go chasing. I was, in the bro marketing world and chasing these numbers. And I'm like, I don't actually need that. I love helping people. I love working one-on-one. I love working in groups. I love leading retreats. And I love working with my friends. So I've revamped my whole business to collaborate. I'm doing less. Financially a little bit scary. And you know what? I trust that, like, if you're in alignment, everything works out. And I feel a little bit like when I get worried about, it was easy when you're chasing dollars, you can find them. But when you sit back and relax, it seems like the universe just gives you everything you need as it comes. But there's that moment where you're like, gosh, I should hustle, I should scramble. And I find it's like that moment when you're like, could I hold my breath one second longer? And as soon as you decide to do that, something comes through. And I'm really learning to trust that. So to get back to how it's affecting my coaching is I'm also more able to help people relax a little bit, not rush things, not be chasing, because most of us are chasing other people's dreams anyway.
Yes, I can totally relate to that, because when we had our breakdown in our marriage, I had to deconstruct myself to my whole entire life, where I, created this bubble of like utopia that I'm like, oh, we're untouchable. I do, and then when things fell apart, I had to look and I'm like, okay, what is my part in it? What am I going to take on? What I'm going to own? What I'm just not going to touch, because that's not my thing too, because I had to take on a lot from all angles. It was always my fault. It was not just from, us, but like, dad, even children, anything happens, everything was my fault. And I always tried to please and be like, no, it's okay, kind of under the rug. And then I had to, and it started diminishing my worth, myself. It's like, well, maybe I'm not as good of a mother. Maybe I'm not as good of a wife. Maybe I'm not as good of a daughter. But then when everything kind of like broke, and then there was just silence, there's nothing, I literally relinquished all the control. Because again, when things aren't working, we do tend to step into our masculine energy. And we have been, as women, conditioned to be, especially this generation, to be in our masculine of doing raw, that boss girl energy. I can do it all. I can be social media. I can be mother of the year. My children are the best, the smartest. I look the best. Look at me. My abs are ripped, 3 months after the pregnancy, right? And then we come to a place where it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then heads start butting, and we are that, pushing and forcing and in our masculine energy. And that's when the communication starts breaking down.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I just realized that, I had to be in my masculine energy for so many years after surviving an abusive marriage. And then even when raising my son through heroin addiction, I was trying to control, and that just became my survival strategy. So it honestly felt like somewhat of a relief to let it go. And then around all of that, just what you were saying about deconstructing and examining ourselves, there was a moment. So I started dating this very masculine man. He's retired from rodeo now, but it was a rodeo cowboy and very masculine, but surprisingly emotionally intelligent, and was asking me about my life, and I he gave me some feedback on something, and he said, I hope you're not offended. And I said, no, I love feedback. Like, please give me the feedback. I want to do that. And I said, ask anyone that knows me. Like, I can sit in my shit basically, and it's fine. Because I want to be like committed to growth and everything. And he got this smirk on his face, and he's like, yeah. And then you get to say that about yourself. Like, one little line, so insightful. And I suddenly thought, what do I do in my life just so that I can say that about myself? And that was massively transformational. And I think if we all asked ourselves that question, we'd be surprised how much of the stuff that we do is so we can say that about ourselves. I'm a good mother. I'm a good wife. I'm a good whatever. Like, who cares? At the end of the day, it's all made up. It's someone else's construct of a good life. All that really matters is that you feel aligned and ultimately, I think, peaceful. And that's it. Everything else is something that we make up. And that was so freeing. And it all came from that one. Yeah. And then you get to say that about yourself. And I was like,
exactly. Right.
Yeah. But it was so true. And such a big revelation. So I actually, as awful as it is, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, divorce is painful and all of that stuff. I'm actually on the other side in terms of, I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to rebuild my life and to revamp my businesses, to recalibrate, and to get to choose again, because 54-year-old me would not choose that man as my husband. This is great, lovely person, all of that, but I wouldn't. This version of me wouldn't choose him, and I get to choose again. Like, whoa. So I honestly can look at all of it with a lot of grace and gratitude.
And I think for me too, when I deconstructed and then there was silence, I relinquished control, and then I stepped into that. I get to be whatever I want to be. I don't have to pretend to be happy, pretend to like this, or do it for the greater good.
Right?
Like,
because who cares?
Exactly.
No one cares.
Nobody cares, right?
What is the greater good anyway?
Yeah, right? It's made up.
It is, right? And then when I started, kind of feeding into that and letting go of like, okay, we're not going to be in this house. We're not going to be, the same family. I started to like dream of things I wanted to do for me that I have never dreamt of, because the constraint of what a family unit looks like, what we should be, how should I act, and so on and so forth. And then, through what we went through, I also say this was a blessing, because that opened you up from that avoidance to stepping and leaning into the discomfort of those conversations.
Yeah, and situations and all of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, I think a common theme, right, here is that self-awareness piece,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because in order to know what you want, because for a while we were living in a lot of don't wants,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I think, especially in a longer term relationship, because you go through all the seasons, right? You start off with these big goals and visions, because usually you're both starting from a place where you're building something together.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have wants. A lot of those wants end up being material, right? House, career, right?
They're markers of that. They're the attribute-based esteem. I must be doing well because I have these things.
Right, which again is all based on a socialized, right, reactive mindset, right? Because then now we're comparing ourselves to what success is, right, in society. But then at some point we switch from playing to win to playing not to lose, right? We kind of acquire a certain like kind of a critical mass, so to speak, where all of a sudden we go into protection mode, and it's like, okay, now our wants shift into don't wants, right? I don't want to have these issues. I don't want this. I don't want that. And then all of a sudden, that's where your focus goes. And we forget about the I wants. And unfortunately, what happens, because we were talking about earlier how we're not taught how to communicate, the context was externally with others, but we're also not taught how to communicate with ourselves, is it unfortunately takes a huge breakdown, right, in a part of your life. Sometimes it's relationships, sometimes it's health, sometimes it's financial, for you to then look inwardly and say, okay, who am I? Because in order to understand really what you want, you got to take a look at who you are, and not just understand the parts that you want everybody to know about, but the stuff that's underneath the carpet that we say is in like the dark corners where all the cobwebs are, right? That you don't want to look in there, but you got to. Right. And that's where you start to learn, honestly, the most powerful parts of yourself. And you come out of that with a lot more clarity.
Well, clarity, but also less suffering, because pain is inevitable, right? We're all going to experience pain and breakdown, because as we were talking about, everything's temporary. And so we can say we're going to love someone forever, but stuff happens and things like nothing is forever. But pain plus resistance equals suffering. So when it's like, I don't want there to be a breakdown, I'm clinging to this shouldn't be happening, or something should be happening that's not happening. Well, we already have one arrow from whatever pain we have, and then we just take another arrow and stab it straight into us, and we're responsible for that one. So the self-awareness of like looking at our attachments, our aversions, our delusions, the self-awareness of it, really checking in with what's mine and what's not mine, and the recognition of our responsibility for that, I think that's what life is for. If we're not using the breakdowns in our lives to become expanded in our self-awareness, you can expect a whole lot more breakdowns.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I mean, breakdowns are the precipice. They're the beginning of a breakthrough. Right? One can't exist, like a breakthrough can't exist without some form of breakdown. Right? You gotta, was it the Navy SEALs? I think their motto is like, you gotta embrace the suck. Right? And you very much need to do that.
There's some spiritual laws of transformation in the yogic teachings. And the first one is seek the truth. And the second one is be willing to come apart. Like if you're going to seek the truth, you got to let all your illusions come apart. And so the things that you thought you wanted, and here's the thing, it's not a one-time deal, right?
No.
It's not even like an onion. It's because that implies that there's a center and you ever get there. It's a never-ending exploration, moving closer towards truth and alignment. And I think that the more we're willing to be self-aware, also as we get more self-aware, you can laugh at these things a little bit more quickly, I think. I think we get a little less, the breakdowns are less injurious, like we find ourselves less scathed by them. Because we can see the meaning in them earlier.
And then you can say, okay, this is my container in my head that is all about, loathing, anger, happiness, and whatever. You can step into those containers, but you can also step as quickly as you step in out. I heard that somewhere on a podcaster somewhere. And I'm like, wow, that makes totally sense, because we are in control of our minds. So we're not mere observers. Like our body will feel certain ways because of how we feel, but our body is also not in control. We are in control of how we want to spend our time, and where in our head do we want to spend our time, and where our energy wants to flow. I had Bonita was when we were going through this breakdown, and I was like lamenting. I'm like, I just got my house the way I want, and now we're gonna get divorced. We're like all the stuff he's left me. And she's like, Bella, like you're holding on to this thing, but how do you know there's nothing better on the other side? You're holding on to that extra pain and things, and you're not allowing space for something new to come in, maybe something that aligns more, where your energy flows. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because you don't see, when you're in it, sometimes you don't see your blind spots.
Well, and in your defense, in that space, when some sense of certainty has been pulled out from under us, we're going to cling to something that feels like a sense of certainty. And of course, a home would feel like a sense of certainty. So it's almost a metaphor for familiar, certain, like the stability that we seek. Yeah. So, I mean, also, of course, and no wonder, and have some grace, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think when you've built a business and a life around helping others, right? And you use, a lot of your learnings from previous breakdowns and breakthroughs and applied, I think sometimes you can get to a place where people kind of look at you and you're just like, oh, you've got it all figured out. And because you said earlier, it's like, it's a constant process, so you're not only doing kind of a transition in, a relationship, key relationship in your life, but you're also now doing a transition a bit in business.
Yeah.
And so what are some, patterns that maybe that you've observed, that maybe weren't aware to you, that you now see now, and how is that kind of having you kind of enter into these transitions with a lot more power and velocity that you were feeling like weren't there before?
That's a really great question. So yes, the patterns were handing over my power to very expensive gurus for a long time in my life. So I've trained with some of the world's greatest yoga teachers, thousands of hours of training with them. Some of the world's greatest personal development facilitators that everyone knows, and done I probably have a $200,000 education in personal development and yoga teaching, spiritual teachings. And I have abdicated a lot of, I suppose, responsibility for my happiness, my power, outsourced it to these methods and these people. And what I started to see earlier on was there's a pattern and there's universal truth that doesn't change, and everyone's just got their facet of the diamond, but the universal truth is the same. So I saw that previously, but through this breakdown, I realized I had been externalizing, outsourcing my sense of wholeness to my ability to serve, and so what this really opened up for me is I don't need to do a fucking thing. I can just be me, and then who am I without needing to prove? So what I saw was the pattern of this continual proving, which was shame based from, it goes back how many years? Like 15 years old, my first boyfriend was abusive to me. And then that set off a pattern of terrible relationships, and then with my son and addiction and all that, I didn't realize that there was still unearthed shame. And I had to prove that I was a good person, that I was a worthy person. I didn't see that a lot of the work I was doing was coming from that, but that's why it felt exhausting. And now I'm committed to, I thought, what's really fun? What's my, like the greatest thing? I love all the work I do, but when is it most fun? It's most fun when I'm doing it with like people that I love, with dear friends that are also that I admire. And so I reached out to a girlfriend of mine that we used to own. She owned a Shift Power Yoga franchise in Sylvan Lake. And we started talking. We're like, let's do the podcast together. It's just way more fun. And then this cowboy that I'm seeing said, I'd like to do retreats. And he has a degree in psychology and has worked with Bob Proctor. He's got the skills to do it. But I was kind of like,
not just a cowboy.
Not just a cowboy. And I was like, what? And so we came up with this idea for Grit and Grace retreats, because I've run yoga retreats all over the world. But I was like, 4-day transformational retreats, but fun, horseback riding, two-stepping, campfires, like fun. Let's do something different. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I came back to life. I felt so excited because these are things that are aligned with me, building new things, creating new things, and doing it with people that I care about. And I thought, this is it. This is, and it's not tied into this endeavor. It's like, this is the formula for me to do things with people that I love, that help people, that I also enjoy, and I can have all those things, and I got nothing to prove. Yeah. So it revealed a pattern of proving, and it allowed the space for me to come into, if I don't have anything to prove, what do I want to do? And so again, I'm very grateful for that.
I really like that, because I think that a lot of people, when they go through something that's tough, they can get to that place of fuck it. Yeah. But that place is kind of processes like, you know what, I'm just not going to care. Yeah. Where the decision to not care is coming from a place of care, right? You're just going to avoid caring because you think it's going to make you feel better. But that's not what you're doing, right? You're saying fuck it to the things that no longer serve me. Yeah. And you know what, maybe hasn't been in service of me for quite some time. Yeah. But I realize it now, and that's going to free up space, almost like what we do with relationships sometimes, right? Sometimes you got to say no and give up the relationships in your life that are no longer in service of what you're trying to achieve, to make room for the new relationships that are aligned. Yeah. And so it's like giving up the relationship that you had with proving and the shame around that and so on, to make space now for the things that really light you up, right? Because you're disconnected from, I need to do this because I have something to prove. It's more just, I want to do this because I just want to.
Yeah. Yeah. And to give yourself permission to your desire, I think especially, and I can't speak for men, but it's been my witnessing that women in particular are taught that who are you to want that? Like your desires are not to be. And so I'm really learning to, like, if there is a God or universe or whatever you want to call it, creator, that those desires were planted there by that universal source. And it would be sort of bratty of me not to try to nurture them and bring them forth. But there is that conditioning in society. I suppose even men too. It's like, go look after your family, go do all the things. Yeah. That's why I was kind of like, maybe I shouldn't speak for just women, but I've just noticed it in women in particular, that we're taught to suppress our desires to be appropriate. Yes. And I'm being wildly inappropriate in many places in my life right now. I mean, that's in the nurturing of my desires, and I love it, and I don't owe anyone an explanation for it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, on behalf of, I'll say, most men, we're very much conditioned to protect and provide, and not only protect and provide, but do so in such a way where you don't show any suffering, right? It's, life is going to be hard, and you're just going to take it on the chin, because if you show any emotion outside of, being happy, laughter, or, if anger, then you must be, less than.
Yeah, you're weak, or you're failing. Yeah. You can't handle it.
Or right, talk about masculine, feminine, you're a woman, right? Or girl. It's always that younger, it's you're a girl, right? What are you, man up? Yeah. Right? Yeah. All those things. So you're very much conditioned to just, being vulnerable, showing those emotions that make you feel it's wrong. They're not okay. And so then a lot of men end up becoming disassociated with those tougher emotions. And so when, especially at home, things get tough, men also overindulge in work, right? Or some other form of stimulation, right? Maybe it's a substance or whatever, but a lot of the times it's just work, 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 because that's aligned with the identity that we're supposed to have of protect and provide. And so if I just protect and provide everything, and I don't complain, I don't show emotion, then I'm being who I'm supposed to be, and things will be okay. But then they don't become okay, right? Then your significant other is all of a sudden like, you're always away. I don't feel connected. what's the problem? And then it's like, well, what do you mean, what's the problem?
I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, and then comes, right, the insert conflict, you know, and that's why things don't work. So, I mean, I think, I know that a huge part of communication and embracing vulnerability, right, all those things is a huge part of what men also need.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. So in the world of, you know, growth and development, like I think the women are very good at coming together, right, and supporting each other.
Yeah. We are.
Yeah,
right?
We are totally.
High five,
Yeah. High five.
where men are not, right? Generally speaking.
Yeah.
And then now it's even at a point, I think, in society where it's almost like, can we even now? Right? Like, you know, in this movement of inequality, are we allowed to actually get together and just be all about men and create a space that's all about men? I don't know. Maybe we'll be canceled because society now is all about women. Yeah. And so, right, that's how.
Well, this is I've spoken about this quite a lot recently. Is that I actually believe that the pendulum has swung too far. And that there was this, you know, and there's such a backlash against toxic masculinity. And in fact, it's mainly a lot of, certainly that exists in the world. I would never deny that. And though what I see is a lot of women who maybe don't want to look at their own stuff, who just point the finger at this. And so men are very afraid to even pipe up and ask for anything they want, or say that they're unhappy, or, you know, rock the boat in any way, because they're going to be blamed, shamed, and canceled. And I think that as a response, like for me, as a voice in this community, and our, you know, especially for a lot of females, and I guess, but I really feel strongly, and I know I talked about this on my podcast. I'm like, I'm going to get flack for this because if people are going to say I'm old fashioned or whatever, I'm like, there needs to be a little bit of a dropping of the ball busting 100%. And an allowance for men to show up with their fears, to ask for where they need to be nurtured, how they'd like to be appreciated, how they would like to be supported. And for us to hold space for that might look different than how our dad did it.
Yeah.
And like, that doesn't make you weak or, you know, any of those things. I think there needs to be a new conversation around, you know, what masculinity is and what that is within each individual relationship, because that can and should vary. Depend. So this protect and provide. Okay. So what do you throw the saber-toothed tiger over your shoulder and come in with the stick and you've done that? Like, all right. But there's more than that. We are social, emotional beings. Men too.
Yeah. And that's the big shift for our relationship, was that, you know, now I feel when something is up, because he still has this tendency to lock into work. Like that's the big one for you, is like, I'm just going to throw myself into work because I'm not feeling enough, or, you know, whatever demons that you're dealing with at that particular moment. And then you've leaned into that vulnerability and that softness and saying, actually, this is what I'm dealing with. And I'm like, okay, what is it about? Is it work? This? And then you'll be like, well, today it's about not feeling like a good enough, like I'm failing as a father.
Right.
And then we can have that conversation versus before, you know, all is good, all is fine. Yet you feel it because that intuition, like, you cannot like suppress and avoid, like you feel that inside.
I love that you can have that conversation. And then I like, one of the things, like if we could offer something to the listeners, is that, and then the tendency would be, if the wife or partner is unfamiliar with that, to try to fix it, to feel safe. Like, what can I do for you? And though that would be the spot to take a breath, hold your breath for one more second and ask, how do you want to be supported in this? Not what do you need, because that implies that they're needing. How would you like to be supported? And how do you like to be appreciated? I don't think we ask each other those questions nearly enough.
No.
And what
we do,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Definitely now.
Yes. Now.
Right?
Yeah.
And when that question's asked, to even take that extra breath to think about it, because our immediate response, again, talk about
nothing,
societal division, right? Because we don't want to feel selfish. right?
Yeah.
And so then it's like, okay, well, what is it? And it's okay to say, once you've actually processed it, and say, I don't never say nothing, because sometimes what you need in that moment is just to be heard. And so it happens sometimes where it's like, she'll ask that question. So I'm like, that scenario, there's another one. It was just like, what do you need? And I'm just like, you know what? I just need you to hear me. Just let me kind of vent, about how I'm feeling about this situation. And that's it. I don't want you to try and fix it for me. And sometimes afterwards, it's like, when I'm done my monologue, right? It's like, you've already solved your problem.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's what I need to do. Right.
Yeah. And I think that one of we come with good intentions when either of us in a relationship tries to fix something, certainly, but also underneath there's an insidious, unworthiness driven behavior, because we get a dopamine hit when we rescue somebody. So it's not really even about the other person. It's my discomfort with your discomfort. So I've got to try and fix. But what I've learned is to acknowledge someone's emotion, but not necessarily the complaint. So to say, I hear that you're really frustrated right now. I feel that. But I don't have to say, totally, I get why you're, mad at the kids, or that, whatever, because now we're jumping into the complaint with you, and that's actually not helpful. No. But to feel, when you say, I need somebody to hear you, well, what if we just said, I can see how that would be really sad for you. I can feel that you're having a hard time with that. Wow. Yeah. Like, that's being heard. Yeah.
Yeah, it has been a game changer for us in that space of communicating, because what the biggest catalyst that started the breakdown of our marriage was the death of my father, and him not being able to be there for me. He saw me as like, I'm not breaking down in front of him. He couldn't rescue me. He couldn't save me. He couldn't save my father, and then he couldn't save me.
There's an interesting study done. I cannot cite the source of this. I saw something about it years ago, but it stuck with me. And they were talking about, there's this reflex that happens with men. And it goes back to the age of the cavemen, but it's a trigger in a man's brain that doesn't happen in a woman's brain. So if you come home and you see her unhappy, that immediately triggers, I am an unsuccessful hunter who cannot take care of my tribe. And so men will tend to go, see, if you think back to the caveman days, if you came home without a kill and it's winter time, then you would be ostracized from the tribe, or your partner would have to go find another partner, or everyone's going to starve. And so her looking worried triggers a biological reflex for you to be like, oh my gosh, I need to go do something. And so men will tend to go see, if they feel unsuccessful because they come home to an unhappy person that they can't seem to rescue, they will become workaholics, alcoholics, whatever, anything, any kind of avoidant, numbing, all of those things. They will go to seek that dopamine hit of, I'm successful at something outside of that. And so it's a very interesting thing when we have a situation that's unfixable. Again, it's a breakdown that we have to go like, okay, how can we come together here? Yeah. It's so great that you guys were able to do that. Yeah. So many people wouldn't be able to.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And it's not, it hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it.
Yeah. And it is getting easier. And I feel like our relationship is that much stronger and closer. The way we communicate, the way we solve problems, the way we work together have never worked this way before. But that's because we both are doing the work, continuously checking in.
Not just you're doing the work, you're also letting go of old ways.
Yes.
And that's something so many people try to pile new communication and new things on top of their old pile of shit. Yeah. And they're not willing to relinquish. Yeah, but this is the way I was raised and it should be this way. You got to let that stuff go and realize there's two people that come to the table with completely different backgrounds and maybe sort through it together. And if you actually laid it all out, you'd be like, well, both of our parents were actually kind of dumb, and we should not, we should probably just take the really good things that are aligned with us, and let's put those two things and those things in alignment here, and let's create our own way forward.
Yeah. Not only do you need to challenge like your own beliefs about yourself, both the things that you believe are great about you, because they actually might not be, right? As well as challenge the things that you believe are not so great about you, because chances are those are also lies, right? That you've been conditioned to tell about yourself.
Yeah.
But then there's also an aspect of, I find a lot of times those lies you tell yourself about you, those things that are not nice, if you pay attention, those are things that you kind of project out onto the other person as well, right?
100%.
And so when your significant other is a little micro expression or a tone or a word, a set, whatever it is, all of a sudden it's like, oh, they think that I'm
this and that,
whatever, right? Chances are, not only do they not believe that, the reason why that gets amplified in you is because it's connected to a belief that you have about you, right? But that's that scary corner we don't want to look in. It's much easier to go, you.
I have a really easy way for people that when they ask me, how do I feel worthy? I'm like, look at what you judge. Because anytime you judge someone else, oh, they have so much money, they're so this. Well, you have a judgment about that, so guess what? You're never going to allow yourself to be wealthy.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't think you deserve it, whatever. Like if you judge someone for the way they dress or the way they talk, maybe someone's too ambitious or too exuberant or whatever. If you judge someone for that, there's something in you. And so if we want to heal, it's actually very valuable to look at what we're judging in others, because everyone is a mirror. Everything is a mirror for us.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't like looking in the mirror.
I mean, that was the hardest part.
I look better in the dark.
And now we have the lights around us amplifying everything. But it was the looking in the mirror, acknowledging all my parts, acknowledging all the things that I told myself that I.
But doesn't it set you free though?
Oh my gosh,
it just sets you free. Like we hang on to this identity that we create and cultivate, and we tell people. But then we get to say that about ourselves.
Yeah.
And then when you move that out of the way, you get to be a little kid again, and you're just like, you get to create your life instead of just reacting to your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get to then design the life you want.
That's so amazing.
Even like around our relationship, I mean, there are people and there's apparently gossip around, our relationship.
Ooh, I love when people are gossiping about me. It makes me happy because then they think about me, I guess.
Yes,
yeah,
and I'm like, and I had this conversation with someone, and I'm like, oh, really? And, I think they were looking in for some sort of a reaction to me. I'm like, yeah, okay, well, their opinions and judgments really have zero effect on me and my life and my relationship, right? What I do with my life, unless they're directly affecting me, that I have to take action and be like, okay, let's work on whatever. Yeah. Really, the gossip, the whatever, whether we should be together, really has zero bearing on
Well, I think that we waste a lot of our lives managing other people's perceptions of us. And the moment that you give any credence to that, you have just given, if your energy is represented metaphorically in gold coins, would you really spend it on that?
Yeah, no.
Or would you invest it in what's right here? Yeah. One of my yoga teachers, Baron Baptiste, he said, if you don't like criticism, also learn not to take the sweets. Because both are attachment to external, outsourcing your sense of worth versus coming from like informed, you're outformed from out there, or you're informed from here. And I love that because it helped me has been very recently helping me really examine. I thought I had dropped my need for validation a long time ago, and to some degree, certainly, but I think that's also a never ending process.
Yes.
And so just really checking in with, like, somebody telling you you're great, like it's just the same thing as somebody telling you you're not. It really should hold no bearing on what I do or don't do in the world.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And that's exactly how I felt at that moment, because before the breakdown, like, it's been 2.5, 3 years almost since we've like
Yeah, I think
grew
yeah,
since
2
we
years.
grew up, maybe it would have affected me. It's like, oh my God, what are they saying? But I had zero interest in finding out because I don't care. I really have that button is off.
Well, and most of the time when people are gossiping, they're repeating. It's like a game of telephone.
Yeah.
They're adding their own whatever they
Yeah.
inferred, whatever, and it's not ever what was said or
Yeah.
meant or whatever. So even to give it any credence is being outformed.
Yeah. And I always say never, because you never know what's going to happen and how you're going to react and how you would
Totally.
within that situation.
Well, we've all gossiped
Yeah.
about other people in our lives.
Of course.
Every one of us has.
Yeah.
And we learn not to because we get caught up in it and it
Yeah.
bites us in the ass sometime and then you go, oh, I don't want to be
my
that
God.
person.
100%.
Yes.
And I think that's, part of the, the infinite game, which
Mhm.
is the inner game, right?
Mm.
Needs to be running the outer game. But
I love that.
But
yeah.
we're conditioned to have it the other way.
Yeah.
Right? Where the outer game
Mhm.
runs our inner game. And then we become constantly reactive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And isn't it insane to think that you would allow other people's reality of you, not your reality of you,
Mhm.
but other people's reality of you to be driving, right? What
Ugh.
matters to you
Yeah.
most.
Do you know
right?
how many coaches and like high profile coaches I worked with that were like, you got to do this and you got to like, and the game is this and you're not, and you're disciplined. And I had practices, let me tell you, like, I mean, for years and years, I always had a meditation practice, gratitude practice. But then I had to add in like read 10 pages of a nonfiction book and do all of these like leadership and get up at 5 and do all of this. And I did all of those things. And guess what? My whole fucking life still came apart.
Yeah.
And my business didn't grow that much from doing those things.
Yeah.
So what I had was discipline.
Mhm.
But what I did not have was devotion to what mattered to me.
Yeah.
And so now I understand that I can have discipline for anything that I
Mhm.
want to do. I have discipline around what I eat and my exercise and the things that
Mhm.
matter to me, telling people I love them.
Yeah.
I have discipline around those things. And now I intend to live my life from devotion, which comes from in here,
Mhm.
not someone prescribing
Yeah.
from out here.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a very different thing. It's like a devotion to what matters to me,
Yeah.
what lights me up, what
Mhm.
creates more love in the world,
Yeah.
what creates more joy in the
Mhm.
world. And that feels really great to me. And I think that if people get even a little taste of tapping into that, this like outforms, it feels so cheap and empty.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden you're sort of it gets flipped on its head and you're like, what was I just paid 12 grand for that coach to tell me that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sheesh. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we believe that although, we're talking about very much breakdowns in an aspect of like physicality,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Like something like a relationship, finance, something breaking down in
Yeah.
order for you to have that breakthrough. People would be like, oh, okay, I got to let a part of my life go to shit in
Yeah.
order for it to transform.
Yeah.
No, not necessarily.
No.
You can, like, what I hear is like, if you get really aligned on what you want
Mhm.
for your life, your vision, your
Mhm.
dreams,
Mhm.
right? Because you can be very disciplined,
Mhm.
but not quite clear
Mhm.
on why you're being disciplined.
Mhm.
So you've got these gurus and people that, they've done things like this form of discipline really helped them achieve a result,
Mhm.
but it's also because they knew what they were working towards
Yep.
and why. If you don't, just doing a bunch of things very, very well, very disciplined, doesn't mean you're going to get anywhere.
Just
Yeah.
becomes
Right.
another place to hide.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Because
Yeah.
you can hide by, look at what I'm doing.
Look at
Right.
And
what
I can
achieved.
say
Look
that
how
I'm
good I
doing
am.
all these things.
Yes, look at
Yeah.
me.
And I'll put it on Instagram.
5 a.m. club. This and that.
You do.
But I
Yeah.
did that and it makes me cringe now.
But now you can do those things. You do those things just so you can tell people that you do those things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, I'm on the path to success because I'm doing these things.
Yeah.
Where if you really step into true possibility, right, which we say is the true form of possibility when you're trying to envision the life for yourself, is you strip away all the constraints,
Mhm.
all the limitations that you put on yourself, right? So I'm no longer thinking about, well, I'm also a father, I'm a husband, right? So when I'm trying to imagine the life that I really would love to live, I gotta, no, that's too much constraint and limitation. Just envision what's possible
Mhm.
without all of that.
Yeah.
Then afterwards, you can start to take a look at, okay, what's kind of a a stretch,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's not too far where I think, oh, that'll never happen. But that still is a stretch because psychologically, our brain's really good at, we can say, oh, I really, really, really want to be a multimillionaire, like so bad out of a 10. Okay, well, what would it take to achieve that? And then you start thinking about all the discomfort, who you need to become, right? The new identity you would need to take on to achieve that, because the reason why you want to be a multimillionaire is because you're not one now, right? So you need to be a different person, right? New habits, new things.
So the breakdown has to be of your identity.
Right. And then
death of the ego.
Right. But then what happens is like all that discomfort shows up, and one of two things happen very quickly. All of a sudden we lower our expectations of what we want to achieve. We choose a smaller dream, a smaller vision, right? Play a little less, or we lie to ourselves about how far along we are in actually achieving it. Right. Either way, we're not playing that infinite
and
game.
I think we've all done both of those things, back and forth and back and forth. And then there's a third thing though, and I would say that it's when we get to like, and I've done both of those things, certainly. But I'd say where I am now, it feels much more, I've probably made my dreams a little bit smaller because I realized they weren't mine to begin with. And so what I'm doing right now is saying like, do I feel peaceful every day? Like everything is so that I can feel. I want to be a multimillionaire. So what? So that you can feel secure, so that you can provide for your family, so that you can whatever. It's so that you can feel a certain way. So what are the things that I do every day that make me feel that way already? Because right now is actually all we have. All those future projections are fantasy.
That's right.
So how can I create that sense? If it's peace that I want, if it's love that I want, if it's abundance that I want, then how do I create that today, right where I am? And I don't think that that's diminishing our dreams. I think that's actually amplifying them in the long run. And that's more of a spiritual practice than a business practice, you know?
I mean, it sounds like you're focusing on the experience, right? That you want to have out of life, because we associate money to identity.
Yes.
Versus associating it with, it's just a vehicle. Right? It is something that I leverage to create experiences in my life that, you know, I want to have. And so a lot of the times we can start having those experiences a lot sooner right, than waiting until having acquired a certain,
I say never wait. Waiting is for suckers. I don't know, can I say that?
Yeah, you can.
Of course I can. So we're the host. No, because I like, big awakening was when my dad died. He died 3 weeks before his 66th birthday. So he retired and then he died. If he didn't live, my dad was not a big saver per se. They've had enough savings, comfortable, but they lived. You know, when we immigrated here, it was like, we're going to drive, and we drove all the way to Mexico, actually, in a car with no air conditioning. But we did those experiences. It was about living in the moment, not waiting for retirement or when I'm older, or when the kids grow up. Like, we traveled more with our kids because the actual driver was, oh my God, when they're 2, we're going to have to start paying for them. And now it's going to be 4 times as expensive. Then, so we traveled so much, we never stopped. But that was our, let's, take advantage of every moment now, because the future is unpredictable and uncertain.
And it doesn't exist yet. We're always living in the now. So if we have the maybe someday I will be happier, you will always live in a deficit. And this is the thing I'm really getting to. Is like right now, like, I don't know, I may have to sell my family home. I have negotiated a deal where I don't have to do that for 2 years. It buys me some time because we own an acreage where my parents are on the other half of it. And if I move, then they have to move. And it sets off a nuclear bomb in our whole family. And so, and I was like, I'm really happy to be able to go and check on my parents every day and enjoy time with them. My sons come to the property all the time, and I get great joy that they show up and they're like, Mom, we noticed that tree needs to be taken down in the yard. We're going to do that right now. And I'm like, wow, like I feel abundantly cared for and I feel joyful at the connections that I have. And my cowboy calls it my own little Hutterite colony that I live in. And I'm like,
yeah.
But I have so much beauty around me right now. And I could sit there and look at, oh my God, my husband left and financially it's going to be hard and blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking at the way that all my people showed up and I have joy, love, abundance, peace, beautiful meals, food, laughter. What more do you want in life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did that in Italy 2 years ago, but I do it every day in my house.
Yeah. We always, when we travel, people are like, oh, are you sad to go home?
Yeah.
I'm like, actually, no, because I love where I live. I love my life here.
Yeah.
I love my life here too. Anywhere
I love everywhere I am.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, for us and for me especially, at the beginning of a relationship, he had a little bit more attachment to the things. I was never, because I'm like a gypsy. So I attached to people, family, friends, and then experiences, like, experiencing life to the fullest. I could live I told you, I could live on a beach in a hut. I could make the drinks. You can teach them surf or vice versa. I don't care. This, like, all the stuff that we acquired was more for you. Things changed. And when everything unraveled, you looked at, why you were doing what you were doing. I looked at why I was doing what we're doing. And now we're just living.
Stuff is proof that you're providing.
Well, I was just gonna say, right, that goes back to, again, what we've learned, right, is that psychological aspect. I'll use your example that you use where, gone are the days living in a cave and being measured by
the size of the cow you bring home.
Yeah, right. And so, and like you said, if I were to come home back then, back to the cave without anything, you would go seeking a new mate. And so that conditioning to protect and provide, right? There was very little conversation that we had in our relationship around, what kind of house do you want? What is enough? Right? And it was just, okay, hey, you want a nice house? Okay, bam, right? Right? You probably would like a nice car. Here, bought you a car, right? And it's all those things, because these are like, I'm coming home with the saber-tooth tigers. I'm coming home, right? Yeah. Here's this, here's that, because that means then it's protecting and providing in I think my mind, right? A lot of men too for the wife, but then I'm just thinking of this now. It's also a piece of protecting yourself.
Totally.
Right? Because you're
protecting your identity, your status, your, like, on the social life, like all of that, because that is protection too.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And then, then all of that comes crumbling down.
Yeah.
Right. And then then it's an opportunity. And I think that's, how you're taking a look at what's happening is that you get what you focus on. Right. And so you can take a look at how devastating this is. And I'm sure you provided a couple examples on there are things that have happened, that are happening, that will have to happen, that are devastating. They suck.
Yeah.
But you get to choose, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're going to put all your energy and focus on that or on the beautiful parts that still exist.
Here's the thing.
Right?
You can't avoid it. Like, what we resist persists, what we embrace dissolves. But I understand, from having gone through so much, like, transformed so much grit in my life into something different, is that the town of freedom, to get to the city of freedom, you have to drive through the town of Suckville. And you got to stop at the dirty gas station there and look in the mirror and
pay too much for gas.
Yeah. Your car breaks down unexpectedly, but on the other side of your willingness to travel there, that's where freedom lives.
Yeah.
And if you keep avoiding Suckville, you never get to freedom.
Yeah.
And Suckville actually becomes your reality. It's sort of like learning to sit. I mean, it's with good and bad, but this too shall pass. And so if it's going to pass, how do I make it meaningful, good or bad?
And if I'm going to relate, again, your metaphor there back to the process, I think, like transformation, those aha moments, going through Suckville, getting to, Freedom Town. Once you're there, doesn't mean the journey's over. So I think a lot of the times we experience some form of aha transformation. It's like, oh, I've arrived. I feel so much lighter.
How many people have you met that have gone to one leadership convention and they come back and they're a complete douchebag because because now they know everything and they think they've arrived. And I'm always like, I just know anytime I thought I've arrived, I get hit with a 2x4. So buckle up. Like,
so, we talked earlier about, what are some of those patterns that you have become aware of, right? Some of them new, some of them, I thought I had dealt with those, but they showed up in other parts of my life. What are some backstops that, you're putting in place or have put in place to help make sure that those things don't come back? Because again, our mind is not always our friend, right? And it has a tendency that when we become aware of things that need to change, as soon as we start to lose focus on them, it has a way of those things creeping back into our life in a very ninja type way where we don't even know it.
Yeah. So the first backstop I put in place, and here's how I do accountability, is I speak out loud on my podcast to the public, to wherever I am at. I say what I'm doing because that holds me accountable. And so one of the things that I have said is that I am no longer outsourcing my decisions to people that I have put on pedestals. And the second thing that I have done as a backstop is I really examined who I had around me. And I have some very good friends around me, but I brought some very specific people into my inner circle right now. One in particular who is teaching me every day more and more about self-compassion. And people around me, I've surrounded myself with the go-getters who can help me build business. And I just they can move out to the nosebleed seats for a while because you know what? I was anxious. I was overwhelmed. I felt burnt out. And sure, I was a boss babe, but the boss babe, she's she can take a hike. You know what? I love decorating my house. I like cooking and nurturing and nourishing my people. I like reading a book. I don't need to be chasing something all the time. So I have put people around me who are very supportive of this process and who call me out. For instance, I booked a trip to Mexico in December. And I was like, well, that's probably irresponsible. I don't know if it's the time and should I be doing my businesses and blah, 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 blah. And I got a group of people around me backstopping me that are like, of course you should. When else would you go? And they're not being irresponsible. They're like, look at everything you've been through this year. And a reset would be really great for you. And you have worked hard your whole life. You deserve to do that. So shut up, And so I think that two things: declare what you want, declare to the people around you. So now there's a level of accountability. And two,
makes it real too.
It makes it real. Right? And then surround yourself with people that are actually not smoke blowers, that are going to be like, yes people. Surround yourself with people that are going to stand for you, even for your vision, even in times when it doesn't feel, when it feels hard for you. So those are the backstops that I tend to put in place. I've always done that. But I think that I wasn't so clear on, I was moving closer and closer and closer to alignment, but I wasn't quite there. And I'm still just currently moving closer to alignment. So sometimes that requires a little shift in the people you put around you.
Yeah. I do find sometimes with friends and the people that you surround yourself with, which is really important. When you ask for those, I'm all about just tell me what you really think kind of thing, right? Because like you said, blowing smoke up my ass does not work because I know you're blowing smoke up my ass. But as a person, I know I can take it. When you have friends that want to give it but can't take it when they ask, how do you deal with that type of dynamics, right? Because, people come to you, even in coaching, right? That's one of those things where it's like, wow.
So that to me, that's a skill of creating the container. And so whenever we're going to, if we just be, I can receive feedback and I've been in some very high flame coaching environments for 2 decades, you know, I'm just like, give it to me, tear me down, which is ridiculous really. But But so what I have learned through, because blunt force trauma works for me.
Yeah.
Doesn't work for everybody. Guess what? I facilitated a lot of things, learned that the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I have learned is to create the container, meaning set your highest intention to say,
Mm-hmm.
I have some feedback for you. And my intention is so that we can clear the space so that I can love you more generously and we can deepen our friendship.
Mm-hmm.
So you set the intention.
Yeah.
And then it has to be blameless in terms of when you do or say this, the story I make up about it or how I feel about it is this, and the result is this. And here's the final piece. What would make me feel better is if we don't add that repair, then we've just made a complaint. And then what we've initiated is defensiveness.
Yeah.
So when we know how to create the container to deliver feedback in, because you and I can take blunt force trauma because we had it, but actually it's probably our job to resensitize ourselves a little bit.
Yeah.
Actually, because when we get into the like, why can't they take it? They should toughen up. And that's also not, I've learned that's also not productive. So how can I frame things in a way? And it's not about blowing smoke, be very clear, but very kind. People don't love to, tell the truth also because they're conditioned to be nice. And it's more about them not wanting to be rejected than it is about, And so I think that if we learn how to create a container, we can give and receive feedback in a way that everybody leaves feeling enriched and supported. And then we don't fear feedback.
Yeah.
I think it's something that should be taught in school.
I think, going on the school whole thing where we pulled our kids out of regular schooling because the anxiety level, there's no there's nothing. Everybody's participation ribbon, everything is nice and kosher. Don't rock the feathers. Oh, you have anxiety? No tests for you. Oh, you have, something. It's okay. We're catering to, that feeling versus, hey, how do we deal with these emotions? We just kind of shove them under the rug and then everything else.
Well, what we teach children when we do that is that when I have something wrong, aka when I am a victim, that I get the attention that I want. Right. Yeah. And so that perpetuates a pattern later in life. And it also creates a deep sense of I'm incapable, and people clearly see that I'm incapable, and they're confirming that I'm incapable by removing the responsibility of taking the test. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that there are instances when that is probably warranted or whatever, but like back, the pendulum swings too far.
Yeah. But I think it's very much being able to be hard on the problem, but soft on people, right? Because a lot of the times friction in relationships happen because there is a problem, right? A thing that happened. And we associate the thing with the person. And so to deal with the thing, we need to deal with the person. And so it's hard, right? Where it's like, no, we can deal with the thing. Maybe the thing is like, when you said this, I felt that, right? Yeah. But doing it in a way that's just like, we're both committed to our friendship and staying friends.
Yeah.
And when you can come from a place of that's win-win, then you can stand shoulder to shoulder and look at the issue and how do we resolve this, right? And it's not about getting someone to admit that, they made you feel a way.
No.
It's just about creating an understanding between each other.
One of the ways that I have learned to approach this, and this was a big learning for me with my son going through addiction, was the thing that caused all my suffering was not the fact that he was lying to me and stealing from me and all the things that addicts do. It was the fact that I was making him wrong for it. Every time he did something and then I told the story again and I went over it in my head, I was perpetuating internal violence over and over and over again, making him wrong. I was keeping the offense alive. And so one of the places that we can alleviate ourselves of resentment, which is poisonous, in approaching things like that, is to give up. Instead of saying, when you said this, it made me feel this way, like we do, to say, I need to apologize to you because I've been over here harboring resentment because I've been making you wrong for something and I haven't even given you a chance to give me an explanation or whatever. I've been making you wrong. Can you forgive me for making you wrong? Because that's causing resentment and I don't want that in our relationship. you show up in a conversation like that, now you got a conversation, you know?
Yeah.
And
love that.
Yeah, and many people aren't really willing to see that their wrong making is, but if you're making someone wrong for something in the past, you're in an argument with reality.
Yeah.
They did the thing and the sky didn't fall.
Yeah.
So either forgive or move on or have a conversation, but get the fuck over it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's our responsibility.
Yeah. And that was the very first, like when we did a landmark training, that was one of those things where, you know, we had us go through an exercise where we had to sit in like that misery, like come up with like that person or that thing or whatever, and you're sitting in that, and they're like, and then what? You are creating this with it. They're not even here.
Yeah.
You know, and you're living in this. So
you're drinking the poison and
you're
expecting them to
die, right? And it's like, and then, you know, one of the things I had to go and make a phone call and apologize for showing up and holding that resentment and doing that kind of thing. So this was like years and years and years ago. So that really helped us like move through some difficult friendships and conversations. But
if
we're
you
not
want to
taught that.
If you want to get free from anxiety, we were talking about anxiety in kids. So anxiety, there's two kinds. There's neurotic anxiety, like, do I look fat in these pants? And then there's wisdom anxiety.
I still have that. Is that children's anxiety? Because I still have to let that go.
But there's wisdom anxiety, which is I'm either doing something I shouldn't be doing that's not in alignment with me, or I'm not doing something that I should be doing to bring me back into alignment. And so I think that rather than succumbing to and ignoring, saying, we want to make your anxiety go away, we can say, what is it trying to tell me right now?
Yeah.
What is it trying to tell me right now? What am I doing that I shouldn't be doing? Or what am I not doing that I should be doing? And what can I do to move myself closer to alignment? And then if we look at where we're harboring unforgiveness or resentment, we can just make a list of where I'm making people wrong. Where am I holding a sword over people's head? And how can I let go of that? And just how much more free would we be if we weren't thinking about how we're really great at looking outward at other people as the cause of our discomfort in life. But it is never anyone else. It is never your circumstance. And it is never the economy. It is always how you view it. And that is exactly what we're just talking about this whole time.
Okay. Well, this was a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming again and sharing your wisdom. Always love Pam. You know, I still say this. If not now, then when? If not
you, then who?
Because of you. Okay. And that really stuck. This was years ago. You know, I heard you say, I don't know if it was at one like a event or whether it was on our podcast, but that really made an impact on my life. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'm glad.
So I use that with, our kids. I use that with us. It is, the time is now.
Yeah. Right now is all we've got. Anything else, like, if you think that there's a future, it's made up.
Yeah.
If you're living in the past, you're not even here. So right now is all we've got. So, you know, I think like move and breathe and create your life from like, if this is it, what words do I want to speak? If this is it, how do I want to feel? If this is it, how would I like other people to feel around me? Yeah. And if we lived our lives day to day like that, I think it's like putting beads on a string of a necklace, and we start to build a really beautiful life in the long run, that when you zoom out, you have many beautiful days instead of hoping for that one beautiful day in the future.
So where can people find you?
PamRader.com, Grit and Grace Retreats.ca, Shift Labs. You can follow me on Instagram. You can follow my podcast, Grit and Grace, which it's pretty cool. We have my friend Erin Payne, and occasionally the cowboy rides in to give some down-home Western wisdom. And people are really responding well to the dynamic there, which is great. And check out all the cool things we got going on.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, until next time. Bye.
Next time. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained valuable insights to elevate your life and business.
If you found value in our conversation, spread the love. Share this episode with family and friends, and let's grow this supportive community together.
And don't forget to like and follow us so we can reach more amazing people just like you.
Until next time, remember, let's not sugarcoat it. Keep it real, raw, and unfiltered.